What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade J.J. Williams, and today I'm going to be discussing the second chapter of the Sequel Trilogy, 2017's The Last Jedi, Episode 8, starring Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Adam Driver, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Andy Serkis, Anthony Daniels, Junice Suotamo, Laura Dern, Benicio del Toro, and Frank Oz. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And like I said at the top of the show, today I'm going to be discussing Episode 8, The Last Jedi, the second chapter of the Sequel Trilogy. And out of the three films in the Sequel Trilogy, I feel this one gets crapped on the hardest. And, you know, I'm guilty of it myself, crapping on it. But when I rewatched it for the review, I realized it wasn't as bad as I previously would talk about it. So let's get into it here, shall we? Shortly after the Battle of the Starkiller Base, General Leia Organa is leading the Resistance forces in the evacuation of their base when the fleet of the First Order arrives. And despite Leia's orders, Poe Dameron leads an attack which destroys a First Order dreadnought, but unfortunately the Resistance suffers a huge loss in members as a result, which leads to Leia demoting Poe. The remaining Resistance members escape into hyperspace, but the First Order tracks them and attacks again. However, Kylo Ren hesitates to attack on the lead Resistance ship after sensing his mother, Leia's, presence. But his wingman destroys the bridge of the Resistance ship, killing most of the Resistance leaders. Leia is dragged into space, but is able to survive by using the Force. And as Leia recovers back aboard the ship, Vice Admiral Holdo assumes command of the Resistance. And the Resistance is running low on fuel, and the remaining fleet is being pursued by the First Order. Meanwhile, back on Ahch-To, Rey attempts to recruit Luke Skywalker to rejoin the Resistance. However, Luke refuses and says it's time for the Jedi to end. It isn't until he's reunited with R2-D2, his old friend, that he agrees to give Rey 3 lessons in the ways of the Force. Rey and Kylo Ren begin communicating through the Force, which kind of puzzles both of them because Kylo Ren has been Force sensitive and trained for a while, but he's never had this ability. And Rey knows little to nothing of the Force, so she has no idea how she's tapping into this ability as well. Ren tells Rey that Luke feared his power, and Luke then confesses that he momentarily contemplated killing Ren upon sensing the fact that Supreme Leader Snoke was corrupting him, which in turn prompted Ren to destroy Luke's new Jedi Order. Rey senses the conflict within Ren and believes he can be redeemed, much like Luke believed that Vader could be redeemed. So Rey leaves Ahch-To while Luke prepares to burn the ancient Jedi texts. When Luke hesitates, the spirit of Luke's old master, Yoda, appears and destroys the library by summoning a bolt of lightning and encourages Luke to learn from his failure. Meanwhile, Poe entrusts Finn, Rose, and BB-8 with a top-secret mission to disable the First Order's tracking mechanism. And Maz Kanata directs them to the casino town of Canto Bight, where they meet a hacker named DJ, supposed to be this master code breaker. They are pursued by the local authorities, but are able to escape Canto Bight with the help of some children and racing animals, which they set free in the process. Finn, Rose, and DJ are able to infiltrate Snoke's flagship, but are captured by Captain Phasma. Ren brings Rey to Snoke, who reveals that he was the one who connected their minds in order to discover Luke's whereabouts. So this ability that they have to communicate with one each other through the Force is all thanks to Supreme Leader Snoke. Vice Admiral Holdo decides to evacuate the remaining Resistance members by using small transport vessels. Poe decides to lead a mutiny against her, though, as he feels that her plan is cowardly and futile. But Poe gets stunned with a blaster shot by the now fully recovered Leia, and the evacuation proceeds. Leia then puts Holdo's plan into perspective for Poe, as she reveals to him that the First Order isn't focused on the smaller ships. They're focused on the big ships, along with the fact that Holdo plans to remain aboard the main ship as a decoy, thereby sacrificing herself as the others flee to an abandoned base on Crate. Back on Snoke's flagship, DJ buys his freedom from the First Order by revealing the Resistance's plan to General Hux, which leads to the First Order firing on the evacuation transports and destroying many of them. Snoke orders Ren to kill Rey, but Ren kills Supreme Leader Snoke instead. Then Rey and Ren together defeat Snoke's guard, and Rey hopes that by turning on Snoke, Ren has abandoned his dark side. Instead, though, Ren asks Rey to rule the galaxy with him, much like Vader's proposition to Luke back in Empire. Rule the galaxy as father and son. She refuses and battles him for control of Luke's lightsaber. Back on the Resistance Starcruiser, Holdo enters Lightspeed, slicing through Snoke's ship, crippling the First Order fleet, and sacrificing herself in the process. Rey is able to escape the destruction, and Kylo Ren declares himself the new Supreme Leader. BB-8 frees Finn and Rose, and they are able to defeat Captain Phasma and join the Resistance survivors on Crate. But the First Order arrives. Finn and Rose attack on speeders, while Rey and Chewbacca draw the TIE fighters away using the Millennium Falcon. The First Order is able to penetrate the Resistance with a siege cannon, while Rose prevents Finn from sacrificing himself. Luke then appears on Crate and confronts the First Order, which allows the surviving members of the Resistance to escape. Ren orders the First Order forces to fire on his former master, but they fail to harm him. Ren then engages Luke in a lightsaber duel, and upon striking Master Skywalker, Ren realizes that Luke isn't physically there. He's projecting his image through the Force. Rey helps the remaining Resistance members get away on the Falcon. Then, exhausted, Luke passes away peacefully on Ahch-To and becomes one with the Force. Rey and Leia both sense his death and Leia tells Rey that the Resistance can now finally rise again. And our film draws to its end on Canto Bight as the Stable Hands tell the story of Luke Skywalker. And afterwards, one of them is able to move a broom with the Force as he gazes off into space. A youngling, another potential Jedi there on Canto Bight. You know, one of my biggest problems in this film is the whole Finn Rose thing. Because if you pay attention to The Force Awakens, and even the first part of this film, you get this connection between Rey and Finn. And you almost think that maybe there's going to be something between the two of them. Because there's definitely a chemistry and a connection between the two. Maybe it's not love per se, but you can even see it on each other's faces when they communicate with each other, that there is a special bond between the two of them. And so for Finn to then get routed to Rose here, virtually out of nowhere, really kind of threw me off. The other thing is I felt like they kind of regressed a little bit with Luke. You know, when we first meet Luke on Tatooine back in A New Hope, you know, he wants to go to Tashi Station and pick up power converters, and he's really kind of whiny. And they kind of went there a little bit again in The Last Jedi. You know, I get the fact that he's in exile and he's kind of upset that Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, you know, destroyed what he was trying to set up, what he was trying to resurrect, turned to the dark side. But to basically, you know, throw everything away and almost pout because everything he had worked for got destroyed. I feel like if Obi-Wan or Yoda had been alive, they would have just slapped the crap out of him. You know, that's why Yoda came in with a single lightning bolt, did what Luke was hesitating about. And, you know, like I said, try to get him to learn from his failures. It's just a shame what they did to the Luke character. The only character from the old series that I feel really grew in this saga was Leia. And she died, Carrie Fisher passed away halfway through the series. So it was an interesting dynamic because she still is in The Rise of Skywalker. They killed Luke here, and Carrie Fisher, Leia, is the one that died in real life. So why was she not the one to die in The Last Jedi? You know, and Luke could have then passed in Rise of Skywalker. I feel like maybe they made a bad call there, but we'll get into Leia's passing when we get to that in Rise of Skywalker, because it's definitely something worth touching on and bringing attention to. Benicio del Toro's character of DJ, I really don't feel like he added anything to the film. I could have done without his character. I'm not necessarily trying to hate on Benicio del Toro, but I just don't feel like he brought anything major to the table. I feel like he was there just because he's Benicio del Toro. He wanted to be in a Star Wars film, so they gave him this part. You know, at least in the prequel trilogy with Sam Jackson, they gave Mace Windu some meaning. They gave him something to do. And I feel like the character of DJ was just a throwaway character. You know, they could have just as easily hired some nobody for a substantially cheaper paycheck to do that exact same role instead of trying to go after Del Toro because he's a name draw. I don't know. That's just me. I did think that it was better this time around than I had remembered it being on past viewings. So I'm not going to rank it super low like I was probably going to prior to reviewing it, but it still falls in about the halfway range. I'm going to give The Last Jedi 3 out of 5 stars. In my opinion, it's still definitely the weakest film in the sequel trilogy. And I just feel like this movie could have been leaps and bounds better if J.J. Abrams had had his hands in it instead of giving the control of this film to a completely different director with a completely different vision. And when we get to Rise of Skywalker tomorrow, you'll see there's a lot of stuff that had to then go back and try to get changed, retconned, and improved upon. And there's so much in Rise of Skywalker. Some people feel that it hinders it. Some people think that it still is a great movie. And we'll get there tomorrow when we discuss it then. Make sure you get out there, get those hashtags trending. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios, hashtag Renegades Reviews, hashtag Renegade Returns, and of course, the ever popular hashtag Shenanigans. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade J.J. Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag StatBoyApproved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. Make sure you get out there. Do what that commercial just told you. Go to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all your official merchandise of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood. Get you your Renegade J.J. Williams shirt, Statboy Sports Bar, Dad's Not Always on Wrestling, hashtag StatBoyApproved, hashtag Shenanigans. Get you your official merchandise of the Jeff Meacham Network, 3 different designs of the Jeff Meacham Network logo shirts to choose from, Meachamania, Talk Wrestling, so much more. Make sure you come back here tomorrow to the Casa D18 Studios channel when I will be bringing you yet another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, and we will be rounding out the sequel trilogy with 2019's The Rise of Skywalker. To date, the final Star Wars film to be made. Starring Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Adam Driver, Carrie Fisher, Billy D. Williams, Anthony Daniels, Joonas Suotamo, Ian McDermott, Mark Hamill, Greg Grunberg, and Billy Lord. You're not going to want to miss out tomorrow as we bring the Skywalker saga to its close with the final Star Wars film to date. Since then, we've had The Mandalorian. We're going to have the Kenobi series coming soon. A lot of stuff coming on Disney Plus. Really looking forward to even further expanding the Star Wars story that we know and love. But this is the last theatrical film to date until Disney decides that they want to milk the cash cow even more, whether they do another trilogy or more standalone films like Rogue One and Solo. We shall see where it goes from here. To all my fans that have been watching the premiere, leaving your comments over here, thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you. To all my fans that watch on demand, because you may be working or having other things to do when I premiere the broadcast, leaving your comments down here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you guys next time, and may the Force be with you.